Guess who got brands talking? Brandlive.co.za.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the WITEE Chatterbots, Women in Tech, empowering everyone. And you're live on air from 27 Boxes Studio, enabled by www.brandlive.co.za. This is a show where we offer hacks and insights, interview disruptors, trendsetters, and innovators, as well as trailblazers. And we aim to empower you with a empower you with the constant change and challenges that surround us with the interviews and masterclasses that we offer. So I'm your host, Carmen, and today's guest in studio is Rianette Leibowitz, CEO of SaveTNet Cyber Safety, and she is a familiar name in the conference circuit. That's actually how we met. And she's been instrumental to equip organizations and schools to help fight cyber safety and help digital citizens travel safer on the cyber highway. I love that. So welcome, Rianette. It's awesome to have you here with us this morning.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
Yeah, no, I think there's something so powerful about what you do. Because as a member of the IAB Education Transformation Committee, digital literacy is a key driver for us. And it's absolutely paramount in this age of constant connection that we enable people how to navigate themselves on the cyber highway. And everybody should have the right to the internet, but I also think that there should be balance, as you always refer to, but also the responsibility that it takes to be online. So that leads me into today's topic, which is the enduring crisis of cyberbullying and how to beat it. Mind the pun. Actually, the pun is intended.
Nice one.
So I think to start off, maybe give us a little bit of background, how SaveTNet came into existence and why did you get involved with cyber safety and what do you exactly do?
Well, my background is actually public relations and marketing. And I then attended an event where one of the spokespeople spoke about cyberbullying, the statistics of how many young people there are that commit suicide because of it. And it was shocking to me. It broke my heart. I thought, this can't be right. This can't be true. How is it possible that someone can take what is being said online so seriously that they would actually go as far as to commit suicide? And I just thought, this cannot happen. We need to do something about it. And I started investigating the situation. I actually went to the World IT Conference in Mexico. I did so much just to get an understanding of this big problem. Because as adults, we are actually, our identities have been formed, hopefully, and we know who we are. So we don't get it. We don't understand why a young person would be so touched and hurt by something like cyberbullying. So long story short is that I then realized we need two things. We need more awareness and we need some place to go for help. So the awareness side is SaveTNet. We aim to save lives. That's why it's spelled with a V, because we want to save lives, and we do that by all these talks and conferences, doing presentations at schools, and then, of course, doing a lot of writing and did a radio show for a long time because it's just getting the information out there. And then it's a network of forensic analysts, psychologists, the right people at the police. Because we all know you can't just go to the police station and say my identity has been stolen. So it's the right people at the police. And this network of people is really there so that you can come to us and say, I'm being bullied, my identity has been stolen, I'm a revenge pornography victim. Whatever you're going through, we can assist you, and you should never, never feel alone.
That's quite interesting. I think that, in this age that we're living in, I think it's so important to pay attention to this kind of thing because bullying has always been a problem. Even growing up as a child, we used to see it all around us all the time. I can just imagine that it's almost like on steroids on the internet and how explosive it is. I mean, just to paint a background, I'm just quickly going online here now. Looking at a site called teensafe.com, like 87% of today's youth have witnessed cyberbullying. Close to 34% of students acknowledge that they've experienced cyberbullying. 39% of our children do not enable their privacy settings on social media. So there's obviously so much work to do in this regard in order to create digital literacy. And to empower not just parents but teachers how to deal with these things. What are your views, and what is the ecosystem, if I can put it that way, of bullying in South Africa currently? What is paint the picture for us as to what it's all about at the moment?
Well, at the moment, if you look at connectivity, everyone's driving towards being connected and making sure that all young kids, from as early as, the moment they can hold something, they are connected. That's a big drive. But UNISA did a youth research study, and it's a bit back outdated. It was published in 2014, but it's something that we have that we can work with. And they spoke to about 1,500 learners in Gauteng. And what they found then was that 97.7% of those learners were connected to the internet and had access, which is fantastic. I mean, it's great to be able to do research and to be connected to the cyber highway. However, the shocking statistic for us was, or one of them, was the fact that a large majority or the majority of those kids had access at home and in their rooms. And if you start thinking about cyberbullying, the bully doesn't stay on the playground.
Yes.
You never leave the bully. The bully goes home with you. You brush your teeth while you look at those messages. While you sleep, they are coming through. So, and that's why cyberbullying is so much harder to deal with compared to physical bullying, because it stays with you and you can go back and read those messages again. Whereas on the playground, you heard it once, you got hit once, and then you can heal. So that's a big factor. And we always say to parents as well is to make sure that if your child has a laptop in their room, and for us as adults as well, we should be very vigilant. I mean, things get hacked. Cameras get hacked. So in terms of cyberbullying, it is really, really valuable to know that the devastation happens because it keeps on happening as you go around the clock. So in terms of stats, I really I'm thankful for companies who are putting statistics together and have worked hard. I mean, there's the JCP who've done really good work and so forth, and Facebook has shared studies and so forth, but we need more. We would like
definitely
more.
I think that's something that we always see in Africa, not just South Africa, but what across our continent, is that research is something that people always hold their hands, close to their heart. We don't always know what's going on out there, and we need to make these stats accessible in order for brands and for organizations to hop on board. But we'll get into that a bit later. But it's a very interesting thought, when you say it doesn't leave you on the playground. In one of the courses that we did with the Connected Marketer, we were specifically talking around how the physical and the digital for the young digital natives is exactly the same thing. So they don't see the fact that I'm standing with my friends having a conversation, the fact that I'm on WhatsApp having a conversation, they don't see it as a different thing. But that recollection of the facts and what has been said, especially if it's not, nice, kind words, I do think can be very, very harmful. So now I would like to understand is cyberbullying seems to be a very, very broad term. Can you maybe break it down for us, and what are the different types of cyberbullying? Because I think, we can look at adults, we can look at kids, is it the same thing? Maybe if you can shine some light on that for me.
Yes. You know what? Cyberspace is so exciting. But if we know...
You sound like Elon Musk.
Yes, let's shoot it up in the sky. No, it's
SpaceX.
It is exciting, but we always say, it's a highway, it's a cyber highway. But as on any highway, there are drunk drivers and people without licenses. The drunk drivers, we're not going to talk too much about them because they are the criminals. But if you look at the people without licenses, they are usually the kids, the ones who have not been trained how to drive on this highway. And we sit with a digital dilemma, etc. But one of the factors is the cyberbullying element. So there are many definitions of cyberbullying, but they all have the following in common. It's always rumors or hurtful messages that are shared on social media and digital platforms. Any device The moment it goes digital, it becomes cyber bullying or cyber harassment or cyber whatever. The posts, it includes posts, images, descriptions, even something,
Memes and all of that kind of things.
even something that's being said about your relative or about your dog or about someone that you care about. That's also seen as cyberbullying. The true identities of the bully is usually hidden, but most often you know the bully. The bully knows the person that they are targeting. And it is a process. It's not something that happens once. It's not just a one stab. It keeps on occurring and occurring. And it doesn't have to be just one person bullying someone. It can be a group. And we'll talk about WhatsApp groups and so forth. And it involves child-to-child communication. The moment an adult steps in, it becomes harassment, and there are other factors to consider. For
Harassment from whose perspective?
So if it's the two of us, then it's not technically seen as cyberbullying,
Okay, I get you.
but we can talk about it as cyberbullying.
Yeah.
But if you have to look at the law and so forth, it becomes harassment. And luckily, and before I forget, the Protection Against Harassment Act is available online and at departmentofjustice.co.za. .gov.za, excuse me. And it's really good for people to know that you can go and actually file this online and get all the information there. So it involves children, and it is a long process. And that's why when we speak about how to prevent it and what to do when you are being bullied, it's important to remember that it takes time to take someone on a journey. And maybe let's just talk about this for a moment, because you know what, you and I are sitting here today and we are excited about what we talk about and what we do. Let's put ourselves back into our shoes when we were 13, 14, 15 years old. And you sit at home and you know the bell just rang at school and you're supposed to be in your second class, but you just cannot get yourself to go because of humiliation, rejection, the fear of what is being said behind your back, and you can still see the feeds growing and growing and growing with people saying nasty things about you. Because yesterday there was this WhatsApp group and they said, who's the stinkiest kid in class? And some names were being mentioned and your name won. And then you got taken off all these WhatsApp groups and you got taken off as a friend on the different social media platforms. Sure. So you deal with rejection, humiliation. You deal with things that your parents just don't get. Because you went to your mom and you said, Mom, I don't want to go to school because I'm being cyberbullied and this is what happened. And as adults, we're like, what's the big deal? Just go.
Fight your own battles.
And what do they know? Just delete it. But we don't realize that actually there's this, and the deep-rooted hurt that kids experience. Yeah. And then it's a cycle where if they don't get the relevant help, then they get depressed. And eventually they really don't see a way out. Because in their world, you just said it earlier in terms of the connected marketer, in their world, that is their space. And they have actually just now been rejected in that space. So it is something that we can't take lightly. As adults, people experience the same emotions. Yeah. Hopefully we deal with it in a better way, in a more mature way. But if you don't get the relevant help and if you don't guard your heart, then it could really get to you. So that's in a nutshell what cyberbullying is and the effect of it. And the other very important factor for us to remember is in digital space, things stay online. So unfortunately, you might be able to go back and read it, or someone else might be able to go back and read that. So that's why when we talk about the different types, we have to be very careful the moment we send or share something.
And I think also, you know, when somebody says something and they say it in a jesting manner, you know, as a joke, you know, it can also sometimes, you know, sometimes you can get it as a joke, sometimes. But when somebody writes something and the tone that it's written in, people can also perceive things completely differently. And I think of the adult world, how, like, even in the business world, when somebody's jesting with you and you're like, actually what they said hurts me. Yes. And then they were like, I was coming from a joke, I didn't mean it, or whatever the case might be. So I think that's one thing, and we have to think about kids. One thing that I also think it resonates with me is it's not just on the school ground. It can happen in your family. So, just to give an example, people might not families be acceptant of the new mother in the family, and it's like broadcast through the whole opposite family. Like they rejects, don't like them. And the bullying can start from your nieces and nephews and things like that.
Yeah.
And, in that type of environment, kids are also very reluctant to share that with their parents because now it's far closer to home. Yes. It's not a fact of now it's school ground, I can keep it at a distance. This is actually within my family environment where I get bullied by my own siblings and so forth. So how do you differentiate that, and how do you address that in, for example, if you had to work with an organization, how would you typically address something like that?
Well, let's start with the rules and the regulations.
Okay.
The things that we actually have in place and the boundaries that we have in place. Social media apps have age restrictions and terms and conditions. And the moment we click that accept button, we've given our digital signature, and it's binding. WhatsApp, for instance, in our country is age restricted to 16. Other social media platforms, most of them are 13, the Facebooks and Instagrams and so forth. How many younger kids do we see using those platforms? Who of them have actually gone to read the terms and conditions? I mean, their parents haven't even read it.
I haven't even, to be honest. Can I just get to the accept button, move on?
Exactly.
T's and C's apply.
And you don't realize what access you give. I mean, you give access to your camera, you give access to your images, etc. That's a discussion for another day. But coming back to the environment and the family environment and so forth, the responsibility is to set a good example. When there's a WhatsApp group, regardless if it's at school or if it's a mom group or if it is a family group or a friends group or an inspirational group, there always need to be boundaries, and you need to realize these are the types of discussions and the types of comments we can have in this group. And it's important for whoever the admin is to ensure that this happens, because should there be any issues and if it has to go to court because of defamation, whatever happens, the admin will have to stand in court and take responsibility. So there are many factors like that we don't consider when we use these social media apps. Yeah. So, but maybe it's a good idea to talk about if you see something happening on a platform where you are, regardless if it's social media or a WhatsApp group and so forth, you have to say something about it. In social media, if we don't say we don't agree, if we keep quiet, or if we say we agree, all of that becomes part of the distribution channel. And if it should go to court, you are part of it. Yeah. So unless you remove yourself or you say explicitly, I don't agree with what's happening, then you will be included in the bigger group of people who are part of the distribution chain. So when you do see someone being bullied, you have to speak up. You have to stand up for that person. If you are the one who's being victimized and bullied, you have to, first of all, do not get hooked in. Yeah. Do not respond. It's the worst thing to respond.
Not engage. Touch, pause, engage.
Yes. Actually throw away and don't engage, because, you should not respond, and take screen grabs or screenshots of that message, because that's your evidence if you need it. And then block the person and then seek help. If that person keeps on doing it and they find another profile, etc., then you have to report it. You have to ensure that you go to a SaveTNet or a teacher or a parent or someone. And if you don't get help there, keep on asking for help, because that person cannot get away with it. And something that and this is not cyberbullying related, but it's something I want to make sure people know about, is if someone is harassing you and you haven't done your research to see if it's a real person and it's the right person, then we want to know who they are. We want to find them, because they are doing this to other people as well. And they find vulnerable people.
Yeah. And they are clearly going into a mission. When kids are, well, not kids, but I mean adults as well. When you have a target, You really go in for that target. So that's something also to keep in mind. I think, with this whole GDPR thing happening and with all this, things happening with the data privacy and protecting of consumers' data, it's becoming a hot topic at the moment. And I think it's important, for especially at a young age, when you become a digital citizen, it's almost like your birth certificate or your driver's license that you can now enter the cyber highways, you would say. That there should be tools to educate kids, from the word go. Like, this is the things that you can and can't do, and by doing this is how you compromise yourself. Because I think it's also important to understand the future you, because if you, for example, the person that's bullying somebody online, and you getting older, and say, for example, you become a celebrity, or you have a high profile position, or you become a CEO, and you have any status or any evidence to show that you were a bully when you were younger, those things will come into your future and destroy you. So it's important for people to understand that those little actions, especially in the digital economy, does have a huge impact.
Yes, everything you do will stay there, and it becomes part of your digital footprint.
Fantastic. Well, I think we're going to quickly go in for a ad break, and then we're going to come back and continue the conversation. Thank you so much.
You're listening to brandlive.co.za, an industry first in the world of internet radio. Not only are we an internet radio station, we're an internet radio platform for your brand. So why not expose your brand to potentially thousands of listeners and improve your customer relationships and brand equity with podcasts and live broadcasts? Be sure to check brandlive.co.za for more information. brandlive.co.za, harnessing the power of internet radio. Making a bold statement yet blending into the surrounding suburbs of Melville, 27 Boxes is a realization of edgy design and practical implementation. A radical departure from the shopping malls of our generation, yet not a return to the high streets of our youth. 27 Boxes showcases the best of a shopping centre set in a garden, surrounded by the bohemian suburb that is Melville. 27 Boxes, shop, play, eat.
Good morning, everybody. For those of you who've only tuned in now, you are tuned in to the WITEE Chatterbots show, Women in Tech Empowering Everyone. And we are sitting here with the lovely Rianette Leibowitz, who's the CEO of SaveTNet. And we're talking about cyberbullying and how to beat it. And I think for it was most important that we first have an understanding what cyberbullying is and understand that there's, what the definition of it is. But I think what we really need to unpack now is just quickly discuss the types of cyberbullying that's out there. And then get a clear understanding of how to categorize it, if I may put it that way.
Yes, perfect. And I think it's good because then we can identify if it happens to us.
Yes.
Secondly, if we are doing it to someone else.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we are just so unaware. We think, I'm just making a joke. And there are many movies out there, before I forget, that people can watch, for themselves and for their kids. So, but I'm thankful for Kaspersky. Kaspersky Lab has got a stunning website. It's kids.kaspersky.com. And on that, they've got the 10 forms of cyberbullying. So without having time to going into too much detail, I just want us to touch base on a couple of them because it's important to understand how to recognize them. So the first one is exclusion. And exclusion is a deliberate act of leaving someone out. And it's done in many different ways. It's excluding you from a party or excluding you from a conversation online and tagging other friends and not tagging you can be seen as exclusion.
Wow.
It's also if a child or if you are not using social media sites and people are having conversations about what happened last night and the conversation that we had, and you are deliberately excluded.
Gossip.
Yeah. And you are making feel like you are not part of this crowd. It's also when especially the young ones, they are so rude to each other. They'll say, you're not part of this group. Sorry, you're not cool enough. This is just for the cool girls or whatever. So that's exclusion. The next one is harassment. So it is a sustained constant and intentional form of bullying comprising abusive or threatening messages sent to your child or to you or a group. And the messages are generally unkind and malicious, and it can impact self-esteem and confidence and can make you fearful. So with harassment, it's always driving fear with someone. Then outing. Well, outing is a deliberate act to embarrass or publicly humiliate someone. And they do that through online posting of sensitive, private, and embarrassing information without that person's consent, and even reading out your messages on your phone out loud to a crowd. That could be seen as outing. Then cyber stalking is a really dangerous one. It's a real threat to your physical well-being and safety. And when it comes to children, there are the grooming that happens in terms of sexual grooming and stalking, which is very dangerous. And I want people to be very careful when this happens. This UNISA study showed that so many kids are being asked to engage in sexual conversations and to share explicit material. And that it's part of cyberbullying, but it becomes a serious criminal offense. Then another one is fraping. I hate this word because it's a combination of like Facebook and rape.
Yeah.
And it's when somebody logs into your social networking accounts and pretend to be you, and they share messages on your behalf. And the sad thing is that it's on your digital and footprint and your profile, so you can't even pretend that it wasn't you. Then fake profiles is another one. Someone with the intention of cyberbullying you will create a fake profile, and this would make it appear as if someone else has sent that threat. And usually fake profiles is created because the person who's doing the bullying knows the person that they are bullying. And you know what? So many times kids will say, but I was just joking. I was just pretending to be a cool boy for her. And then she fell in love with this boy. And now she realized he's not real. And she shared all these special moments with him and her deepest, heart desires and so forth. So yeah, fake profiles is big. Dissing is another one. Dissing is the act of sending or posting cruel information about someone online and with the intent to damage their reputation or their friendship with others. It can also include posting material online such as photos, screenshots, or videos. So dissing is a big one, and you won't believe it, but there are actually websites where you can find dissing messages for teachers or dissing for boyfriends or dissing for ex-fiancé. Trickery is another one, and trickery is the act of gaining someone's trust so that they can reveal secrets or embarrassing information that the bully then shares publicly online. So they will befriend you or a child, build the relationship, and then get all this information and share it. We've had calls from parents who say, my child is being held ransom. If we don't pay 30,000 Rand by 5 o'clock, for instance, they'll share all his photos online. These things really happen. Trolling is another one. Now, the rule is don't feed the trolls. They are there. They deliberately think of ways to upset people, and they will take their time to find out what will upset you. So trolling is a big thing, and they usually they do this to make themselves feel better. And the last one is catfishing. So catfishing is when another person steals your online identity. And this becomes very, very dangerous because they could use your photos or your personal data, information, and pretend to use, or they will use some of your elements, not necessarily your whole profile. But you might find your photo edited onto pornography and so forth. So catfishing is a big one.
Whilst I'm listening to all of this, I'm like, we as adults can't even manage sometimes these things happening to us. Naming like what? Numbing. Listen to me. Making my own words here, but I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking, yes, but that's happened to me before. Maybe on this occasion or that occasion. Sometimes being a joke or whatever the case might be. But as an adult, you have the skills to handle and cope with it. But then as a child, the impact of these things is humongous. I mean, I'm just thinking like, physical bullying is one thing, but then you're looking at the mental abuse, the sexual abuse, the self-esteem, and how you are breaking down these people. But it has a long-term effect because they don't have the coping mechanisms in order to deal with it. And it almost feels to me like it's an impossible thing to combat. What is your views on that?
I think we need to manage it. I don't think we can combat it because of human nature and just because people have always done these similar things, but now they've got a different platform to do it on. I mean, people have teased, kids have teased. I remember being teased at school, and I didn't see that as bullying, but they definitely made me feel embarrassed. So it's just a different platform. So we need to manage it. We need to be able to give our kids the stamina to deal with it, show them what is wrong and what is unacceptable behavior, and get the conversation going in schools in such a way that they say it's not cool to bully. And you know what? Last year we were part of Cartoon Network's anti-bullying campaign. It's called Be a Buddy, Not a Bully. And I absolutely loved it because it's such a nice way to talk about a hard issue. Even though this is a hot topic, it's still a hard issue. So it talks about physical bullying, but also cyberbullying. And Ntando Mhlangu was the ambassador for it. And I just loved the way Cartoon Network did it. They had these different cartoons on screen that kids could watch and talking about, what is it being bullied, or what do you do if there's a new kid in school? And SaveTNet was part of that to talk about the cyberbullying side of it. So working with brands like Cartoon Network is so powerful because they already have the platform and they've got the market, the target market who already listens to them. And we don't want to bombard them with, looking like a mom with finger showing, don't do this, don't do that. We want to empower them to say, what is acceptable? What is good in cyberspace? Because we are digital citizens. What is good behavior? So that's the type of message I think we should focus on.
I love that. And I think the most important thing is these things lead to suicides. We see awful things happening and people that didn't know their rights in terms on how to protect themselves. And I think that we all have a responsibility, whether it's in CSI initiatives, brands. I love the fact that Cartoon Network got involved with something like that. And I think Wade van Niekerk was also involved.
Yes, he was in 2016.
Yes, is with that particular project. And I think listening to all of this, I think also that the tech giants have a responsibility in order to empower everybody that's on their platforms and to protect their data, but also to protect what scares me the most. I was reading something on AdAge this morning where they were talking about there's another company now that, this Cambridge Analytica have more data and insights on people's behavior. Put that into somebody's hands and maybe a young teenager that's experimenting, that knows how to hack things and know how to get access to information. Those things can open up a jar of germs, not germs, worms.
No, germs is the right word because we talk about online germs, yeah.
Because I mean, seriously, it concerns me because I mean, if brands can access it so easily, and it's so easy to be accessed and to exploit customers, then you have to think, what if young digital citizens get hold of this data and what harm they can create. So I think that I definitely feel that we as adults, but also companies can really drive a huge impact on that. How do you see, for example, brands getting involved with something like this and CSI initiative, tech giants? Like, do you have any examples of those?
You know what? This is relevant to everybody, Carmen, because whether you are in the medical aid arena, people, that baby that was just born and people who are taking photos of this baby with their little card saying how much they weigh and where they are born and so forth, that is that medical aid's member. And we are exposing that child from the medical side right through to legal, your personal data. If we think about, even plasters, I can come up with a message for you there because don't just put a plaster over a digital hurt. We need to find the root cause. So it is education. We are putting devices in kids' hands, and making sure that education is keeping up with technology. Fantastic, but I'm always the one who puts up my hand and I say, what about their safety? How are we making sure that the school governing bodies ensure that there are firewalls in place, that we've got the kids covered in terms of safety? The learners, how do we enable them to deal with these different things that they will be exposed to, like cyberbullying? The parents, how do we empower them to understand, to keep their kids safe? That's education. Then we go into legal side and insurance. I mean, companies have to have insurance for when they are breached, not if, when. Every company is at risk, and we are all vulnerable to the people who work for us, because they are the biggest risk. They come in, they get a USB stick at the shopping mall for free, and they're so excited. They come to the office, they plug it in, and they put the whole network at risk. So any industry is relevant, whether you're a farmer or whether you are a tech giant. We want to work with companies to say, your members, if you're a bank, the people that bank with you, they need to understand that they have a responsibility to keep their own information safe, and to also consider how they impact your safety. So any industry is relevant, and we really invite companies to join hands with us, because we've got the content. We want to empower them with the content so that they can share it with their members, their customers, their clients, whoever they are. Even, cameras. If you think about digital devices, photos, people don't realize that the information on a photo can tell me exactly the GPS coordinate where it was taken. So it's relevant for everybody.
Sure. Very scary stuff. Now, how do people get hold of you should they wish to, pursue something like this with you in order to, combat cyberbullying? How do they get hold of you?
We would love to hear from anybody. We've got different platforms. SaveTNet is on Facebook and on Twitter, and we've got a website. But the spelling is important, because it's SAVE, like save. We want to save lives. SaveTNet.com. And we would love to have conversations, explore opportunities. There are many angles to take. From a CSI point of view, lots and loads of opportunities. Like, for instance, some of our partners have sponsored us to go into a community. Last year, Kaspersky Lab sponsored us to go into Orkney, and we spoke at many schools in Orkney. And what I love about that is that it's behavioral change. It's not just one speaking at one school here and one school there, etc. It is actually the whole community.
Starting a whole movement in the community. Yes. I love that.
And it was great for them, because they could see who we enabled to get the information, etc., who the beneficiaries are. So that's from a CSI point of view. Then there are lots of other projects, like the Cartoon Network one. There are no boundaries when it comes to ideas and how to empower people.
Fantastic. Awesome. So, okay, we've got a tradition in the show. So how we do this is we give you 10 questions, and then you need to try and answer them as quickly as possible. Well, 60 seconds to be exact. Okay, I'm going to start. On your marks, get set, go. Okay, so what was the name of your first dog?
Snooky.
Okay, what is the funniest comment you've ever heard from your child?
There are too many. I'll come back to that one.
Okay, what is the weirdest song you've ever heard?
The weirdest song? When my son was in school, one of his little friends sang, that song from Pink, I kissed a girl and I liked it.
Like Katy Perry.
Well, her mom said, no, I pick my nose and I liked it.
Oh my God. Okay, what would the world be like if it was filled with male and female copies of you?
Fantastic.
What would be absolute worst name you could give your child? Be careful now.
Cell phone.
What is the secret conspiracy? If there was one, what would you start?
It's a secret.
Boom! You finished. 60 seconds is out. Sorry, you got a 5 out of 10 there.
Oh, that's okay.
But it's because you had to entertain us with I kissed a girl and I liked it. Well, anyway.
Now everyone will sing I picked my nose.
I picked my nose, yeah. Anyway, listen, I just wanted to say thank you very much for joining us today. Also like to thank Brand Live Radio Studios for making this possible. And then also for Solid Gold Studios that help us manage the iTunes and the Castbox accounts and help empower our audiences. Thank you very much and see you next week or talk to you next week. Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Guess who got brands talking? Brandlive.co.za